Hello to everybody. My name is Matjaž Kovač, and I would like to represent my article in this International Conference of New Trends in Social Science. Name of my article is Noetics, a new but an old understanding of mind and reality. Well, if we ask ourselves, what is exactly noetics? Noetics is an interdisciplinary field dedicated to the exploration of consciousness, inner knowledge, intuition, and the relationship between mind and reality. The term originates from the Greek words nous, meaning intellect, awareness, or inner understanding. Unlike traditional scientific disciplines, that focus mainly on observable and measurable phenomena, noetics attempts to investigate the deeper dimensions of human existence, including subjective experience, spiritual awareness, creativity, and the nature of consciousness itself. In recent decades, noetic has gained increasingly attention because modern society has become more interested in psychology, mindfulness, meditation, spirituality, and human potential. The field stands at the intersections of philosophy, neuroscience, psychology, spirituality, and consciousness studies, making it both fascinating and controversial. One of the central themes of noetic is consciousness. Researchers in this field investigate awareness, self-reflection, meditation, dreams, intuition, and altered states of consciousness in an attempt to understand the true nature of the human mind. Despite his popularity, noetics remains very, very controversial. Critics argue that many noetic theories lack strong empirical evidence and do not meet strict scientific standards. That is a real problem. Some scientists believe that certain noetic ideas rely on heavily on spirituality, subjective interpretations, or speculative philosophy. Okay, it seeks to explore dimensions of human experience that extend beyond traditional scientific observations. What is noetic and modern science? How is this connected? Neuroscience investigates the structure and function of the nervous system, particularly the brain. Modern imaging technologies have enabled researchers to observe neutral activity in unpredictable details. According to claimers, science has made considerable progress in explaining what the brain does. Researchers can describe mechanisms of attention, perception, memory, and behavior. These questions are sometimes referred to as like an easy problem of consciousness, not because they are simple, but because they can, in principle, be explained through physical process, this physical process in our bodies. Cognitive science approaches consciousness from a broader interdisciplinary perspective, combining psychology, neuroscience, computer science, linguistic, and philosophy. Cognitive science investigates how information is acquired, processed, stored, and utilized. According to predictive processing theories, the brain continuously generates expectations about the environment and compares incoming sensor activity and informations with these predictions. Perceptions therefore results from an ongoing interaction between the external and internal models. The emerge of artificial intelligence has introduced new perspective of consciousness. Modern artificial intelligence systems can perform tasks that were once considered uniquely human, including language transition, image recognition, strategic planning, and creative content generations. What is the problem of conciseness? In everyday language, conciseness is often understood as awareness of oneself in one's surroundings. However, philosophers and scientists generally recognize that consciousness encompasses a much broader range of these phenomena. One of the most important concepts is contemporary philosophy of mind and notions of qualia. Qualia refers to the subjective qualities of conscious experience. An influential contributions to this debate was made by scientist Thomas Nagel in his famous essay, What It Is Like to Be a Bat. Nagel argued that every conscious organism possesses a subjective perspective of reality. Even if scientists could understand the biology and neural mechanisms of a bat, they would still not know what it feels like to be experienced in the world like a bat. Contemporary philosophers often distinguish between two forms of consciousness. First is phenomenal consciousness and access consciousness. One remarkable characteristic of consciousness is its apparent unity. Human experience appears as a coherent whole despite being generated by numerous independent neural processes. Consciousness is closely connected to the concept of personal identity. Most people experience themselves as the same individual throughout their lives despite continuously physically and psychologically change. Despite this remarkable advance in neuroscience and cognitive science, consciousness remains one of the human's greatest mysteries. Now, what is the nature of consciousness and nature of cognition? Every act of cognition involves a relationship between a subject and the object. The subject is the knower, the individual who perceives, thinks, and understands. The object is that which is known. Perception represents the starting point of most cognitive activity. Throughout the sense, individual receives information about the external world. One of the most compelling demonstrations of the constructive nature of the cognition is found in optical illusions. We have all around some sort of optical illusions. The famous Miller-Lyer illusion consists of two lines of identically length. Because of the orientation of arrow-like markings at their ends, one line appears longer than the other. Even after learning that the lines are equal, many observers continue to perceive the illusion. Like illusion on the right side, illusion about the faces and the vase. Memory plays the crucial role in cognition because it allows individuals to retain information and connect past experience with present understanding. Reasoning enables individuals to analyze information, identify a relationship, and draw conclusions. It forms the basis of science, mathematics, philosophy, and everyday problem solving. Although rational analysis is often considered the hallmark of cognitions, intuitions also plays a significant role in human understanding. Throughout history, philosophers has emphasized the limitations of human cognitions. Skepticism challenges assumption about certainty and encourage critical examinations of beliefs in the nature of cognitions and also in the natures of noetics. Well, consciousness and the construction of reality. How consciousness make our reality. Human beings continuously create mental models that help them understand and navigate the world. These models consist of beliefs, expectations, memories, concepts, and assumptions that organize experience into coherent patterns. Modern neuroscience increasingly support the view that perception is an active process rather than passive observation. Expectations exert the powerful influence of perception and behavior. Psychological research has repeatedly demonstrated that individuals trend to perceive events in ways consistent with their exceptions. This phenomenon is known as expectationally bias. Reality is not constructed solely at the individual level. Human society also create a shared system of meaning that shape collective experience. One of the most significant construction produced by consciousness is personal identity. Most individuals experience themselves as stable and continuous person. Yet psychological research suggests that identity is continuously shaped and reshaped through some experience in human minds and human history. Human beings possess a unique capacity of self reflection. Unlike most of other organisms, they can examine their own beliefs, assumptions, and patterns of thinking. This ability allows individuals to modify the frameworks through which they interpret reality and all systems. What is connection between noetics and psychology? Psychology emerged as a scientific discipline during the late 19th century, focusing on the systematic study of mental process and behavior. Since then, numerous schools of thought have developed, each offering different perspective of human nature. One of the strongest connections between psychology and noetics can be found in humanistic psychology. Positive psychology emerged as a response to the traditional focus on psychology, disorder, and dysfunctions. Rather than concentrating exclusively on mental illness, positive psychologists investigate the factors that contribute to well-being, resilience, happiness, and personal fulfillment. Many psychology theories propose that human development involves progressive stage of cognitive, emotionally, and moral growth. Self-awareness represents one of the most important capacities of human consciousness. Through self-awareness, individuals become capable of observing their own thoughts, emotions, motivations, and behaviors. One of psychology's most influential contributions to understanding human behavior is the concept of unconscious mind. Human life inevitably involves adversity, uncertainty, and loss. Psychology has increasingly focused on understanding resilience, the capacity to adapt and grow in the face of challenges. Well, now we are going to the most interesting part of our conversation is consciousness and artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence can be broadly defined as a capacity of machines to perform some tasks that typically require human intelligence. These tasks include learning, reasoning, solving, pattern recognition, language processing, and decision making. One of the most common misconceptions is the assumption that intelligence and consciousness are identical phenomena. That is not true. One of the earliest attempts to evaluate machine intelligence was proposed by Alan Turing. Turing suggests that if a machine could engage in conversation in a manner indistinguishable from a human being, it could reasonably be considered intelligent. This proposal became known as the Turing test. One of the most famous criticisms of strong artificial intelligence was proposed by philosopher John Searle. Searle thought experiment imagines a person sitting inside a room who does not understand Chinese language. By following detailed instructions, the individual can manipulate Chinese symbols and produce appropriate response to questions written in Chinese. This is a Chinese experiment or Chinese room argument. Many modern artificial intelligence systems are inspired by the structure of biological neural networks. Artificial neural networks consist of interlocated and interconnected computational units that process information collectively. Through training, these networks learn to recognize patterns and improve performance. Some researchers believe that consciousness may emerge whenever information processing researches sufficient complexity. According to this view, future artificial intelligence systems could eventually develop forms of awareness analog to human consciousness. The relationship between consciousness and artificial intelligence remains one of the most fascinating intellectual challenges of this our modern age. And now, the conclusion of my article or my presentation. The exploitation of consciousness remains one of the most profound and enduring pursuit in human intellectual history or in human history at all. Modern science has significantly expanded our understanding of cognitions and the brain. The study of cognitions further demonstrates that human understanding is not a passive reflection of reality, but an active process of construction and interpretation. The relationship between noetics and psychology further illustrates the importance of consciousness in human development. Noetic therefore encourage a vision of human development that integrates intellectual, emotional, ethnical, and existential dimensions. Now, if you ask yourself where we were known and hear about the noetics, you probably watched Dan Brown's Dan Brown's movie, The Lost Symbol, or you read Dan Brown's book, The Lost Symbol. There is whole story of this book was preparing in the base of noetics silence. So this is the first book continuing noetic silence and is prepared and readable about this noetic silence. Okay, that is everything what I have to say about my article in this conference. Thank you for being there and thank you for listening my presentation. If you have any questions about noetics or about paranormal, you can ask me. Do not hesitate to contact me. Here is my phone and here's my email. So thank you for today, and we can see or we shall see in next conferences or in next events. Thank you.